I'm Rachel Edidin.
And I'm Miles Stokes.
And we are the co-hosts of Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men, a weekly podcast where we walk listeners through the ins, the outs, and the retcons of our very favorite superhero soap opera.
And these days, we also do video reviews of all the X-Men books that come out every week, thanks to our awesome Patreon supporters. Thanks, guys.
So this week, like last week, we have 5 X books. That seems to be where we're averaging out most of the time. Let's dive in.
All right, what do we have first?
First off, we've got All New X-Men number 31. Now, if you recall, this is the book that's following the 5 time-displaced original X-Men, 4 now that Cyclops is off having adventures in space, their adventures at the new Xavier Institute. That's Cyclops' renegade X-Men who are hanging out in an old Weapon X bunker. Now, the grown-ups at this point have gone off to the Xavier Mansion for the last Will and Testament of Charles Xavier storyline, which we're not in at all this week, which is kind of great. Leaving the kids alone to have wacky kid hijinks.
And I actually really like this aspect of the book. Last week's issue wasn't all that strong. This is a lot better, and I think part of that is it captures the feel of rebellious students sort of doing their own thing behind their headmaster's back. It very much reminds me of the Magneto as headmaster era of New Mutants, and I never get sick of that.
Yeah, it's got that same teenage hijinks feel, which I really dig. So this is the beginning of the arc that's going to introduce Miles Morales, the Ultimate Spider-Man, into the 616 and into that universe's X-Men. And that's basically what it is. It's set up for what's going to be that story. As an intro, as something that basically exists to take the story from point A to point B so that it can start jumping into the actual arc, it's solid.
Yeah, not bad. Okay, so next up we have Uncanny Avengers number 23. Now this book right here is sort of a crossover book between Avengers and X-Men that came out of AVX. It's about half mutant characters, half non-mutant characters.
So I literally jumped into this book this week, and I feel like I've missed a ton. Can you catch me up a little?
Oh, geez, sort of. There's been a lot going on. So we're coming out of the Avenge the Earth storyline, which was essentially an alternate timeline that the Uncanny Avengers got sucked into after fighting the Apocalypse twins. It's a really long story. But the fact is, it was an alternate reality, and now they're coming back into the main reality, and there are a lot of consequences. And that's actually something I really like about this book. Now, I wasn't sold on Uncanny Avengers for the first part of its run.
No, likewise.
Yeah.
I feel like it got off to should have been a strong book and got off to a really weak start.
Agreed. But what I'm seeing now is actually really intriguing. So, the characters are coming back from this alternate universe, and Havoc and the Wasp have been married, and they had a child in this universe.
Who now no longer exists.
Right. And, let's see, Rogue and the Scarlet Witch had died, and they came back. There's all sorts of bizarre things have been happening, and I like that we're coming back, and we're going to have to deal with the consequences of that. So often, alternate reality storylines, like, say, Age of Apocalypse, are completely overwritten by the time they end. This one looks like it's not going to be, and that's kind of cool. I do also want to bring up the art. Did you look at the art in this? It's really different than what we typically see, style-wise.
I did. I think I remember you mentioning that it reminded you a lot of Adam Warren, and I can definitely see that.
Yeah, totally. If you look at something like Empowered, and that really works. This cartoony, expressive style fits the writer Rick Remender's writing style really well. It actually reminds me of my favorite parts of his comic Fear Agent that ended a little while ago.
And I think it's actually Sanford Green, who I'm more familiar with working in a slightly different style, and I was really surprised to see that this was him on this book.
Yeah, so it is a lead into Axis, the next big event, but so far I'm really optimistic about the direction this book's going.
All right, we're going to roll from there into Cyclops number 4. As you may recall, when we reviewed Cyclops number 3, it was one of our favorite books. As far as I'm concerned, Cyclops number 3 is my pick of the week, that week, this week, and every week.
It's one of the greatest X books we've read in ages.
So, Cyclops number 4 introduces the new art team, Carmen Carnero and Terry Pallett. They are very good. They're not Russell Dodderman good, but not a lot of things would be. I mean, the difference between, there's what Russell Dodderman was doing on Cyclops 1 through 3, and there's still very, very good comics, and the new team is firmly in the middle. One of the things that keeps the feel of the book really consistent, and this is how you do an artist switch on an ongoing series, guys, is colorist Chris Sotomayor, who's still consistent in this, and who we've talked about previously as really being part of defining the look of the series.
Yeah, I love the way that Sotomayor draws colors, or I should say, the alien planet that Cyclops and Corsair are stuck on this issue and the previous. It's just really bright and vibrant and engrossing and, for lack of a better word, alien. And the colors that Sotomayor uses, they also just look really tasty. Like, the entire planet is just these vibrant fruit flavors, and I just want to, like, suck the fruit juice out of every plant and animal.
Don't eat my comic books.
No, not the comic. The
Cyclops
planet.
comics.
The real planet.
Oh, okay.
Well, anyway, you were saying.
Apparently it tastes like chicken, so... yeah, so the last issue, you'll remember, ended on a really, really rough note for Cyclops and Corsair. This one, I'm not going to say it's in Cyclops has a good day territory yet, but it's starting to get there, and it's a subtle but really pronounced tonal shift.
Yeah, and part of how we see that is the characters really coming into their own. Corsair just regaining his sort of never say die optimism.
Pyratitude, I believe, is the technical term for this.
Pyratitude. And Cyclops coming out of his own despair at what's going on and feeling like, well, maybe we'll get out of this, maybe we won't, but let's certainly give it all we have. And that kind of relationship, those personalities and those characters, that's really what makes this book for me.
One of my favorite things about adult Cyclops when he's written well is just how that he's at his absolute best against impossible odds, and that's something that we're seeing now consistently with his teenage analog as well.
Good stuff. So next up, we have Wolverine and the X-Men, number 8.
And oh man, you guys, it's so good!
Yeah, in one of our previous reviews, we were talking about how the second volume of Wolverine and the X-Men by Jason Latour as opposed to Jason Aaron hadn't been nearly as strong, and I stand by that, but this issue turns it around. This is the feel I want from Wolverine and the X-Men. It's great. Also,
I want to briefly point out that apparently someone's setting off fireworks outside our window, so yeah, that's going on.
They love the book too, that's why.
Yeah, bonus noises in this video.
So this is actually the second part of a storyline, but it really stands alone quite well. I would say you could just pick up this issue and have a totally complete story. Wolverine and Storm, it's basically them going on vacation, but they don't want to take too much time away from the school, so they go into the world, which is the sort of time-displaced alternate reality where Phantom X was created that was involved in the Weapon Plus project.
Program, yeah.
And yeah, so it starts out just as a vacation. They're hanging out on a beach, but of course they get sucked into this big bizarre plot of the alien/native races of this plane of existence, and it ends up jumping through time over the course of a year as Storm kind of becomes the goddess of this, and Wolverine helps with becoming a revolutionary leader. And it's really wacky, but it's also really dramatic and poignant. And this is actually one of the better comics I've read in a long time, which I really wasn't expecting out of this book. Highly, highly recommended.
Man, the other thing is, I mentioned this with Storm too, but Marvel in the last, 2 months has totally sold me on Wolverine and Storm. That ship is seaworthy.
Yeah, who knew? Who knew that could work? But it totally does.
Last up, we have Wolverine number 12. It's technically the last issue of the Wolverine ongoing before it jumps into the death of Wolverine, and you know what? No, I'm not going to review this book.
Why not?
It's boring. It's totally lackluster. It's everything that I don't like about Wolverine, just in terms of feeling contrived. It's, the art's pretty solid, but it's nothing special. It doesn't really tie into the death thing. It's a terrible story for him to go out on. So instead, I'm going to review a book that came out last week that reminded me of everything I actually like about Wolverine and the fact that the things that I'm actually kind of sad that we're going to be losing with him. And that is Ms. Marvel number 7.
Oh man, yeah.
If you are not reading Ms. Marvel, you should be.
Yeah, whether you're just an X-Men fan or not, this is one of the best books Marvel's doing. It's not an X book at all. Ms. Marvel's technically an Inhuman, but whatever. This is just delightful freaking storytelling. It's great.
Wolverine has been guest starring in this book. He's been running around the sewers with Kamala Khan, the current Ms. Marvel, and kind of doing his mentor thing. And it's great. It's delightful. It's fun. It's brightly colored. It's cartoonish, but it's also really, really heartfelt and smart. And it's everything that I want a Wolverine story to be.
Yeah, he's also at his curmudgeonly best, which I always find hilarious, and this book does really well.
So yeah, skip Wolverine number 12. Go back, read the Ms. Marvel arc he's in instead. Way better use of your time and money, and way better Wolverine. So Miles, what's our issue of the week?
So against all odds, it's actually Wolverine and the X-Men number 8. Who knew this book could suddenly be so freaking good?
Yeah, it is solidly the best of the week, and that's even not grading on a curve.
It's also a really good jumping on point, which is a plus as well.
The panel of the week, though, comes from Cyclops number 4.
Yeah, this is from the first 2-page spread of the issue, and it's just Cyclops and Corsair kind of hacking their way through this alien wilderness with this brightly colored flora and fauna, and God, again, the colors in this book, so freaking good.
Yeah, the line art is solid, but this is a panel that is all about Chris Sotomayor's colors, which, again, have come to define the book as much as the line art. And that is the last of this week's X-Books.
Thank you so much for watching. Of course, we do our podcast, Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men, and that debuts on Thursdays at comicsalliance.com and the following Sunday at rachelandmiles.com, iTunes, and Stitcher.
Check out the current episode right now up at Comics Alliance, where we talk to Kurt Busiek about hidden gems of the Silver Age and make him explain the Phoenix Retcon.
Thanks always to all of our Patreon supporters. You guys make this and everything we do whether it's about X-Men or not. Possible. You guys are awesome.
You are the wind beneath our poisonous bladed wings. Hi, my name is Rachel Edidin, and I'm the co-host of the podcast Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men, and the video series Rachel and Miles Review the X-Men. In the last 2 weeks, since Miles and I started doing video reviews, we've gotten comments from a number of you who dislike specifically that I always wear sunglasses and that my face isn't particularly animated. And this is a message that's specifically to those of you who've taken the time to write into us about those two important points.